Welcome to the Wisdom of Women show. Business is the most powerful, innovative force in the world. And with visionary women leaders at the helm, we can lead in both impact and profit. Today's world needs the wisdom of women in business. This is why we are here to help women grow. Are you already a successful visionary woman founder leading a high impact company? The Wisdom of Women show is designed just for you. We are a community of women founders, investors, and leaders who want to see you rise. Join us as we unlock opportunities and prosperity for women-led enterprises. The future of business is women. Are you ready? Welcome to the Wisdom of Women show. We are dedicated to amplifying the voice and wisdom of women in business. A new model of leadership is emerging, and we are here to amplify the voices of women leading the way. Thank you for joining us today as we illuminate the path to unlocking opportunities and prosperity for women-led enterprises by amplifying the voice and wisdom of women. Today, we have a very special guest for us today, and it's Dr. D. Sangeeta, the founder and CEO of Gotara, a global platform dedicated to closing the talent gap in technical fields. With a PhD in materials chemistry, Sangeeta's career began at GE, where a pivotal moment shifted her path from scientist to leader. After holding C-suite roles at Nielsen and Amazon, she launched Gotara, a platform that supports and upskills technical talent, particularly STEM women, empowering them to reach their full potential. Gotara's programs deliver real, measurable results in as little as 8 weeks, driving innovation, growth, and productivity for organizations worldwide. Passionate about leadership and transformation, Sangeeta has a deep commitment to fostering high-performing teams and cultures of sustained innovation. Sangeeta, we are so happy to welcome you to the Wisdom of Women show. I am delighted to connect and share with our listeners you as a gift to learn more about your journey. Welcome.
Thank you, Coco. I'm so pleased to be here, and thank you for this opportunity, because we can only join hands to address the gender gap that exists in the society on a bunch of different facets.
That's so true, right? And so as you know, I always like to start out with a question about a book written by a woman that has significantly influenced your life.
Okay, so the interesting thing, Coco, was that I love reading books, novels, and business books. And behind me, you'll see mostly business books. And after I launched Gotara, I actually went and looked at all my books to see which ones are written by women. And what I realized, there were very few to none. And I said, I'm going to change that. I'm going to read only women's books from now on going forward. And that's what I have done. And I have loved those books. Women authors are powerful. They have unique point of view. And it's very practical for all of us. And one of them that was a fun book to read, and I really loved it early on, was Girl Boss by Sophie Amoroso, CEO of Nasty Girl. And I loved it because, she's a CEO of a company that sells vintage clothing. And she started from being going nowhere to launching something that became successful. So she broke every norm you could think of to become the CEO and to become highly successful individual. And I love that. And people break all kinds of norms and traditions. And despite the society being against them, they are successful. And she's one of them. So she is one of my role models.
I love that, and I have not read this book. It's like I've seen it like so many times and I have not picked this up. Sangeeta, I'm gonna go right on and get it because I don't know why I haven't. I have a client that I know would love this book. It's like
Oh yeah,
perfect because it's actually a founder who's building an irreverent sort of brand and how important it is, right? When we're building our brands to be honest and truthful and, declare who we are and break all the glass, right?
exactly.
And I
She's
know
cool.
you have broken so much glass, right? And I as your journey has you came up through corporate. I mean, as a woman in technology, that is that's hard. And so for all of our listeners, I have shared some time with Sangeeta. She and I went to Cuba together this spring with the How Women Lead group. And so I have heard some of her stories and I know. So tell us a little bit about your journey, how you became a founder, and what inspired you to create this really, I think, transformational company, Gotara.
Cool. So I got a PhD in material science from University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. And so I wanted to do material science and change the world of materials to impact different businesses. And so I started working on jet engine technologies for GE and GE Aviation and also for GE Energy for gas turbines. And I found that very interesting. I got a whole bunch of patents and stuff. And I wanted to retire as a Uber scientist. That's what I wanted to do. And here came one of the corporate officers who said, after one of our reviews in a big meeting, said, would you be interested in marketing? And I said, what? Marketing? What is that? And I had to be careful because I was this lowly scientist and this guy was a corporate officer. So I had to take his request very seriously and I thought about it. And actually, I took the role.
Mm.
And that was kind of scary a little bit, but at the same time, it got me into this path where GE, and I didn't know any of this at the time. I didn't even know that he was my sponsor. I didn't even know the word sponsor at the time. And every 2 years, he would ask me to go take a new role. And so they essentially make you into a general manager when they see a potential talent. So that's something that I truly learned at GE, how to become a leader and how to grow leaders under you.
Mhm.
And that was one of the biggest things I learned. And so I moved on to Nielsen, did a bunch of different roles, then went to Amazon, did very different role, worked for the CHRO of Amazon. And then I said, what's next? And I didn't want to go do another corporate job. I said, I want to do something that I'll truly enjoy, no matter how it is going.
Yeah.
And that is when this idea came of Gotara, where I really have enjoyed coaching and mentoring. And also as a technical business leader, I always would, whenever I would take a new role, I'd always go and understand the customers first, and then I'd understand the talent in the organization.
Yeah.
And if I found a gap, I would partner with my HR leader and we would launch a program because I always felt there was a gap and company didn't have the stuff for them or the outside world didn't have it. So I'd done it in small amounts in different ways. And I said, we're going to scale it and we are
Yeah.
going to do learning and development in a very different way and disrupt this industry if we can.
I just love it. And there's your website is very clear. I mean, one of the compelling points that you make is that by 2031 there will be a need for 11.1 million people in technology,
Mhm.
11.1 jobs, and there's going to only be 9.9 million workers. So
Yep.
there's this gap of skilled talent that you are focused on trying to solve. So what you just said is exact. I mean, it's like there is a gap. So Sangeeta says, how do I solve that gap? Right?
I mean, the interesting part is people talk about this talent gap in the technical tech industry. And we are trying to bring people without degrees. We are trying to people bring from community colleges, all awesome. However, we have these women who are perfectly trained with degrees and many years of experience leaving the workforce.
Leaving.
Work on them. This is your lowest hanging fruit.
Mhm.
Let's do that
Mhm.
and not lose money, because companies every year lose $9 billion by letting that happen.
Mhm. And so what have you learned? What have you learned as you've got in here and started working to try to help with the gender gap and the overall gap? What have you sort of discovered about what they need in order to stay, what they need in order to level up? What are some of the things you've observed in your journey?
So I'll start with one thing that I was surprised by. So after our platform was around for 3 years, we actually did a whole bunch of research to understand why women leave. You truly understand why they leave, then you can actually address the root causes, right? Um, And what we found was, in the past, I was sitting at the table at various companies, and we would talk about this gender gap. Like, women actually get hired at 50% rate, and then they drop out within 5 to 7 years. And everybody said, well, women are at that age, they want to have family, and that's why they're leaving. And I'd be sitting there as a mother thinking, like, maybe I should do some soul searching for myself. And so
Why am I still here? Right? Why am I still here? Yeah.
And so when we finished this research, the data that we found and analyzed was 90+% women are being pushed out of their role.
Yeah.
They didn't want to leave their role. They're literally being pushed out. So somebody who's a top talent has been put into a least effective role. Which self-respecting person is going to stay in that role?
Right.
Okay, so women
Not
are
this
leaving.
one. Not this one, right?
Right. And so once we found that, this is coming from micro moments that are happening at the when the rubber hits the road between one-on-one meetings or 1 to 2 meetings, and the senior leader and the company may have all the right intentions to do, but they can't police these micro conversations, these nano conversations, and those are the conversations that are pushing the women out. And then the story is so horrible that it doesn't get shared by any.
Yeah.
And so it never reaches. It was happening under my nose. I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I'm passionate about gender gap.
Right. So how do you correct for this? How do
So
you?
yeah, so that's a good point. So at Gotara, we capture them at those nano moments. So if they're going through our programs, they are learning tips, tools, and techniques for various issues that they somehow get dropped into and they can't figure out how do they get out of. And we help them address it in a way. And many times it's actually not intentional. What they're feeling is somebody is not intentionally doing that to them. It is unintentional. And when you bring up in the conversation and you openly discuss something like this, it is corrected like that.
Right.
And in fact, and we have lots of examples we can talk about how women have gone in and corrected some of these situations for themselves.
Mhm.
And some of the
Mhm.
men going through the program are doing the same thing. In fact,
Mhm.
making as big an impact as women are making as a result of that.
Well, what I was again, your website is actually really it's concise and yet detailed. And so it talks about your programs have self-paced nano learning, right? Which sort of emulates these nano moments, right? These microaggressions
Mm-hmm.
of like where you don't have to have long periods of time. Same, what is this self-paced nano learning? What is that? What is that?
Yeah, so people on our program go through 15 minutes a day on the job. nano learning. So we're not taking them out. They're working on the stuff that they need to work on. So normally, typically, oh, I don't have the time to do any learning because I have so much stuff on my plate. I don't have time. Or managers don't want them to leave because they're working on something very critical. So we are actually helping them use those tips, tools, and techniques on the job that they're doing. And they read for 15 minutes a day or listen to, watch videos, whatever it is, and they're applying it, and it's real time, and so they're making a difference, and they're seeing results. So when your human brain, the way it works is you do it in small pieces and you see success that you have not seen before.
Yeah.
You get recognition that you have not seen before.
Yeah.
You're going to remember it for the rest of your life.
Yeah. If it's reinforced in that very positive
Yep.
way,
Yep.
quick and immediate.
Yep.
And I know, all right. So I sort of dove all the way in, and I want to step back out for a minute just to make sure all of our listeners understand. So Gotara, who is your customer? Who do you sell to? And what's the primary problem you're solving?
Okay.
Let's start there.
All right. So we have the B2B side where we make money and we sell to companies to sponsor cohorts who can go through our program. So we work on individual contributors and managers, both men and women, because we believe gender gap cannot be addressed just by upskilling women.
Yeah.
And we can actually address this in a bigger way. So you not only address the gender gap and nutrition issues, but you also provide or have successful business results, which is like killing three birds with one stone,
Exactly. So
Yeah.
that's great. And I also want to make sure we talk about one of the things I like about your whole business model is how intentional it is. And from the very beginning, so we started out talking about your how you started, and we didn't get to talk about what your name is and what it represents and why and in your philosophy and how it comes into play. So I know it's a little backwards, but I would love if you could tell that story as
Yeah.
as sort of puts it around this beautiful program that you've built.
Yeah. So Tara in Sanskrit means star. Go reach for the stars is what our spirit is. We actually teach everybody that don't point fingers at the managers, organizations, and policies. Let's figure out what we can do to help you spiral up. So
Yeah.
that's the name. And the three coniferous trees we have as logo, it is all about being grounded to earth, reaching for the stars.
I love that. And it's reinforced throughout all of what you do and how you do it and
Yeah.
all of your philosophy.
Yeah, one other piece that I forgot to mention, we have the B2C side that's
Yes.
altruistic, that's free. And unlike most other companies, we started the charity part of work right at the beginning instead of waiting till we make money to do charity. We have 32,000 members on our platform from 176 countries. We have about 176 advisors on the platform where we answer any advice request that comes through within 24 hours on any hurdles that they're navigating in their workplace.
It's
And it has
extraordinary.
worked really well.
So Sangeeta, how have you done all this? Tell us like how what have been your big milestone moments and how have you cultivated? What's your story for how you've gotten to such a huge amount of traction so quickly?
I think it's a bunch of different things. Having that corporate experience did help.
Yeah.
I worked for very different companies, so I learned different things from different companies. I wrote a business plan right up front about my concept and which helped me understand how we are going to start, how we are going to grow, and where we could potentially go. And then once I had that, then I immediately embarked on creating the team that I'd like to create. And knowing that I have constraints that I've not had in the past when you work with larger companies, when it comes to compensation, it's market value and all that. With startups, you have different style of compensation, and not everybody is open to that. So I had to understand that really well
Yeah.
and focus on the people that I could hire.
Mhm.
And that's how we built the team. And the first thing we did was launch the platform, the
Mhm.
tech
Mhm.
platform, which is where we spend a lot of money. And at one point, our team was about 70 people or more
My
when we were
goodness.
launching.
So,
Um,
so you found one of your first things is you found a tech partner to help you build what your picture of.
Yeah. So I have a very strong CTO, and also hired very quickly right after him the chief operating officer, she is a great operational and product person. So the good thing about that is product operations and technology, I have literally delegated to them.
Mhm.
And everything else plus strategy is what I'm leading. So it gives me a little bit of bandwidth because I can trust these folks. I've worked with them before. They're awesome,
Mhm.
and they're just absolutely good at what they do. So I need to kind of keep an eye on that, but most of my time I spend on sales and marketing and strategy and
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
general, like finances and stuff.
Mhm. Mhm. Trying to make sure you can, make the runway, right?
Exactly. Got the money to pay my employees.
That's what we try to do,
Yeah. Yep. Yep. That's
And
right.
I know that you have largely self-funded, right? You've been a big bootstrapper, and God bless you. And is that something you're going to continue doing? You think you'll raise money at some point? What's your thinking about that?
So yes, we have bootstrapped so far, and we are doing actually reasonably good for a startup.
Hmm.
And I'm expecting to continue for at least a little bit more when we want this big uh, push into the growth. I
Yeah.
would probably raise some money. And there are several investors who are interested, who have reached out, and I've told them that I'm going to wait for fundraising, not ready yet, but I
Mhm.
want to be at a point where I feel good about where we are and we are growing to kind of turbo boost it with investment money at that time.
Yeah, no, I think that's so smart. I mean, you keep the value, you wait for as long as you can, right?
Yep.
And grow the value as much as you can, wait till you're worth as much, and then get some money, and you'll also have more options for
Yes.
different kinds of money,
Exactly, exactly. And
right?
and as a startup CEO, founder, or entrepreneur, you want to have the options. You want to be in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
And when you and some people don't have a choice; they have to raise money right up front. But if there is any opportunity you have, then it just gives you, if your idea is good and you know how to actually take it to fruition, you are actually better off because you can be really laser focused on what you want to do, and you can go execute. You're not wasting time raising money because raising money takes a lot of time.
Takes a ton of time.
Yeah.
You basically, it becomes a full-time job.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'd love to know, so what have been the biggest challenges you've faced on your journey, and how has that cultivated your strength?
Um, you know, there are times where you learn from. For example, I thought raising money would be pretty easy. Unfortunately, some people told me that, oh, you shouldn't have any problems. And so I thought that I could just do it on the side. And I learned the hard way
Mhm.
that you can't do it on the side. So I had to literally be deliberate about what I'm going to do and not do. So and not let investors push me or I push the investors unless I know exactly what I want to do. So that was a huge learning. So if I had to do it again, I would do it a little bit differently.
Mhm.
And and the other thing that I'm proud of, but also uh, is tough when you're pivoting business.
Yeah.
So we launched at first as a B2C, And what we realized that we will not be able to make the money that we need to in order to for us to sustain. So we very quickly pivoted to B2B. We had the platform that was amenable to the B2B, and within 6 weeks, we launched B2B programs. That was a huge pivot, and I'm so proud. We didn't know if it was going to work or not work, and it actually worked out to be awesome pivot. And then recently, last year, we actually pivoted from just gender gap to talent gap, because what we realized was women are going through the programs and they're loving it, and they're saying, that's great, now I feel empowered, but my manager hasn't gone through this. Why aren't we putting our managers through this program?
Right.
And also, it's an ecosystem. You can't, it's like your body, you can't fix your left hand and not fix the right hand. You're still going to feel sick if something is wrong with one part of your body, you know?
That's a very good analogy. Yeah,
Yeah,
it makes sense.
yeah. So our solution is very holistic
Mhm.
compared to a point solution.
Mhm.
So it works for our customers.
That's wonderful. I'm thinking about how to, there must have been some intentionality in the way you built the product
Mhm.
that it was able to be flexible enough, but still have a strong enough MVP to do something. Can you
Yeah.
say more about that for our listeners, about some of how your brain was thinking as it was building that first product?
So this is something that I talk to my CTO a lot about. Even though I don't go write code, I have always thought the code needed to be flexible,
Yeah.
and it needs to be. There is a technical word for it. It's containerized. So it's almost like modules. You can take a module out and put another module in, and that's how we built it. And our CTO is so experienced that he said, we're going to build you an enterprise model. You can scale to 1 million people in no time. And we just need to go buy more space from AWS, where we are hosting this. And so that has helped us to swap out models, swap out modules, and and also any time we're coding, we're always keeping it. So our product leader is really good. These are some of the things he thinks about. So he shows the engineer what the future could look like,
Uh-huh.
and these are the things that I want to activate now.
Uh-huh.
The others are not activated, but assume they're coming in the future.
Right. So there's a constant thinking of the future and the possibilities of the future,
Exactly.
so that you can keep navigating. I think that's so brilliant, because so often we build something, I see building things that don't work for our market, right? And then there's so much waste. And it sounds like you were able to build something that was usable, quickly able to make any adjustments that you needed to make without having to have too much waste, which
Exactly.
is really quite extraordinary. And again, it's like you had a good team. You have a good team.
Yeah, yeah. Team makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what I see in a lot of startups, in fact, when I talk to a bunch of investors, that's what they were surprised about, because normally startups kind of conjecture something together, put something together, it's an MVP, and they somehow work through this, get some traction, and when they get the investment money, they build from scratch the
Right.
whole new system. I said, you don't need to spend a single penny on the system. We already got it. We're going to use it for marketing and sales. And so they said, what? You got it? I said, yeah, that's it.
That is unusual.
Yeah.
Usually it's like something that's been kind of pre-bought, that's sort of half together, and exactly. So so tell us about how you're making your sales. So you're selling B2B. Are you spending a lot of time yourself going in and doing a lot of outreach? Is that a big
That is something that I'm going through right now. I spend a lot of my time on sales. I
Yes.
am the chief revenue officer for the company, and teaching someone else Sales, I feel, is the hardest. And I'll tell you that I'm not a trained salesperson. I grew up in technical world and I did operations and marketing and product. I have done a lot of different jobs, but I was never a salesperson. So when the job fell on me, I started doing it and I was not sure if I'd enjoy it. And I actually like it. I like helping customers.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to them carefully, you're thinking about, I mean, like almost like you're in their shoes. What would you do?
Mm-hmm.
So some of the stuff that I would recommend them have nothing to do with our product or services. I would say, hey, you want to make sure you go do this. And then when you have that, then you can have Gotara programs to
Yeah.
fill this gap.
Yes.
And I think that is the part that I enjoy the most. And I need to figure out how to train and bring up people in sales teams so I can delegate some of this work.
Yeah.
That is some I would love to learn more about.
That's the next stage, right? That's the
Yeah.
next thing. We're always growing in some ways, right?
Yep.
That's great. What do you see the future? What's in their future for Gotara and for you?
You know what I feel the future for Gotara is when the gender gap in technical fields is addressed, at least 50% of the gap is addressed
Mhm.
in the near future. And the second thing is the technical talent is being used to its fullest potential. And what I find today is that talent is not feeling that they're getting used to their fullest potential, and the management is not feeling that. And our programs actually bring those two things together. And imagine if they're feeling the full potential, they're
Mhm.
going to grow as leaders,
Mhm.
business is going to grow as
Mhm.
company.
Mhm. And technology is in so many ways transforming society, right?
Yeah,
And opportunities to make the world better. And I think about it in my business in healthcare and how technology is going to help us with the nursing shortage and the doctor shortage. And, not that technology is going to replace these people, but that it's going to help us work smarter and be able to put together information that we wouldn't otherwise. And
yeah, yeah.
so this need for technology, people being at their best and at their fullest potential is critical. It's critical for society.
It is absolutely critical. In fact, I want to give you one very good example. It comes from healthcare industry. And this team developed and launched a product into the marketplace. And within a month, they had to pull the product back. Why? Because it didn't work for women. And it was all men, product and tech design people
Oh,
who never thought about women. And that is why diversity of thought at and this is what I call nano moments and micro moments.
mhm.
Um, Sometimes you just don't think about it. Why are, for example, all medical studies done mostly on men? I mean, you can't help women. I mean, when you give me medicine, you're giving me medicine for a 6 foot tall person. I'm not 6 foot tall. I'm taking way too much medicine for my problem.
Mhm. Exactly.
And so diversity of ideas and thoughts are so critical at every step of any product or service that
Mhm.
is launched in this world.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, I mean, why should the car seats or plane seats be comfortable only for men and not for women?
Absolutely. They're always terribly uncomfortable for me.
Very, the
You
headrest
know,
is like here,
it's in
up
the
here.
wrong place. My head's going forward. It's totally true. Oh,
50% or more of the population, and we fly it too. You know,
right. It's true. We do. We fly too. Exactly. Um, so I'm curious. So, what would you offer for founders who are struggling, right? Women founders who are struggling, whether it's in the area of building their business, scaling their business, especially maybe funding their business. What would be the advice you would offer to them?
I think I'm going to keep the funding part out because they are very personal to figure out what they can or cannot do. But product market fit is probably the most critical thing that one has to do as a founder. That's the first thing that you should think about when we talk about MVP. We should check those things out manually first. And
Mhm.
sometimes, even when we do it manually, you may not get the full picture. You may get only partial picture. And how do you continue to morph until you get to the product market fit? Because you will know when you have product market fit. Customers will love it. They will pay for it. They'll keep coming back for it. That's when you know you have
Mhm.
product market fit. So that's the first step. The
Mhm.
second step that I am still learning
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
product sales fit. How do
Mhm.
you get the salesperson outside of the founders to be able to sell that product,
Right.
who have not created it but are passionate about what we do? How
Mhm.
do you do that? That is huge for me right now. And that's I keep coming back to that over and over again.
Well, Sangeeta, you know what? I appreciate that. And that I have in my belief as a founder, I believe that growth is always a puzzle you can solve,
Mhm.
but you need to know which puzzle you need to solve. Right. And there's if you're trying to solve all the problems at once, you're not going to, and there is a sequence typically. There's usually something that if you solve that one problem right now, it would be the best thing for the company. And you just described it, like you know what the problem is that you need to solve. And
Mhm.
that's great because you will solve it.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
will, right? Like just because, okay, here's the gap, and now
yeah,
I know I'll go and figure it out. And like every other gap along the way, you figured it out, right?
yeah. One thing we didn't do, which a lot of companies do, when they're doing product market fit, they will do it for free for customers just so they can have the logos and say, hey, this customer tried it. We didn't do that. We said, if you're not paying for it, we ain't doing it. And so every customer we had was a paying customer. When they pay for it, that's when you know there is
Yeah.
product market fit. When they're not paying for it and they say they love it, means nothing.
No, you're right. You're right. Because they need, and also you really don't know behaviors change for the better and for the worse,
Yeah,
right? When people pay for something,
yep, yep, yep.
right? The perceived value is higher, and so a lot of times it changes the relationship with the product.
Exactly. The human brain works in a certain way as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I just love this. And it's so great to see you. And it's so great to see your journey going so well. What could our listeners do? What can I do to support you at this time? What do you and Gotara need right now?
Well, there are a couple of things. One thing that I would offer is the listeners, any of the listeners can join Gotara for free and get advice from really rock stars who can give you advice for free that would cost you otherwise thousands of dollars. It's people like Coco or I, and awesome advice. So that is one thing that I would like to offer. And the second thing that I would like to request from the audience and from you is introduce us to your employer or a company that could use our products and services. It is, to me, it is not just revenue, it is how quickly can we make this impact faster.
And what kinds of employers are the best suited, and what kinds of companies? Is technology? Is that tech focused?
That is our ideal customer profile. We are industry agnostic, we are size agnostic because we have all small customers, large customers, mid-sized customers in different industries. But the biggest bang for the buck we get is in the tech industry because that's where the bigger cohorts are, that's where the bigger challenges are.
Mhm.
75 to 80% of our customers right now are in tech industry. So it could be fintech, health tech, one of those kinds of companies. Yeah.
Mhm. That's great. Okay. So in Gotara, Gotara.com is where we go. And you can go and you'll see there's like a place where you can say for employers, one for individuals. And so you can sign up for free as an individual and check it all out. And then as we just discussed, and you just described, if you have an employer or you know of a tech company that would like to take advantage of building its tech talent, its tech pool, elevating its team, Gotara is a great way to advance the future of the company, right?
That's right. Yeah, I believe so. Yes.
Yes, 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 indeed. Okay, then, is there any what other lasting wisdom would you like to offer women founders building business?
Last advice that I would give them is be bold. Don't let people pull you down. Take the risks. It's worth it. You'll enjoy it later. You will see the benefits of it.
Isn't that the truth? Be bold.
Be
So
bold.
thank you, Sangeeta. Thank you for joining us today on the Wisdom of Women show. Thank you for illuminating the path to unlocking opportunities for growth and prosperity for women-led enterprises. We value your experience and your wisdom. The world is made better by women-led business. Let's go make the world a better place.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Coco.
you. Thank you.
Is your business ready to accelerate? Take the Business Acceleration Readiness Assessment today and find out now at www.aforceforgood.biz/quiz. Take the 5-minute assessment and you will receive an instant response on the 4 essential areas of alignment needed for business growth. You will also receive 4 free tools specific to your situation to help you and your team accelerate success right away. Go to www.aforceforgood.biz/quiz and find out what you can do to accelerate, impact, scale, and profit today.